Season 2 in Civilization Eras and Allies has some differentiators from Season 1, and they're major. So in this video, I'll talk with you about the top 10 mistakes to avoid in your Season 2 gameplay. And I would know, because I made some of these mistakes, and we're actually kind of just wrapping up our Season 2. We didn't win Babylon this time, but we do have an agreement where a bunch of people from our alliance will move in together to share the rewards for Babylon at the end, which is really cool. And before I get too far along into this video, a big thank you again to the makers of Civilization Eras and Allies for sponsoring this video. You can use the link in the description to download the game if you haven't already, and consider subscribing to this channel, which is making dedicated videos about Civilization Eras and Allies. Let's talk about the big differences in Season 2 and the mistakes you need to avoid. And the first mistake is actually related to the skills that you put onto your heroes, and let me explain. When you get into Season 2 and you start battling level 7 tiles, the guards are going to use a lot more heal block type skills. So this very much counters your sort of Season 1 meta, where you wanted to go in and use a survival style army. The answer here is to use debuff clearing skills so that you can still have those effects apply. All right. So one of the easiest ways to go and do this is actually with a purple skill, and I want to show it to you. Okay. Use this skill in Season 2. It's called Reorganization. And I can find it for you on screen in just a second. I suppose I should have just sorted here, and that would make it easier. But Reorganization. Remove all non-tactical phase debuffs from 2 allied heroes. Grant them healing for 2 turns. Healing at the start of each turn, recover troops based off of your int. This is an easy skill to unlock and will make your tile taking way easier, which is going to give the start of your season the acceleration that it needs. Now, there are gold skills that you could use. Supernatural Ally and also Last Resort are great picks to remove debuffs. I suppose I could show those to you as well, but you could just take my word for it that these are powerful skills, but obviously the gold skills are harder to obtain. Remove 2 allies, combat debuffs, and deal damage. Solid skill, all right? Mistake number 2, and this is a big one, and it's about getting a good start, is not using China, okay? At the end of the day, China gives you an amazing 20% boost to XP. It's the best you can get. Like, guys, this is it. Start the season with China, all right? During your novice protection at the start of the season, actions are only going to cost 8 AP. One of your main objectives in that 2-day window is, of course, leveling up your armies, typically 1 or 2 of them as fast as you can. More XP from China is just a win. Technically, you could go with one of the civilizations that gives you 10% boost, but go with the 20% boost of XP and honor. Like, it's just a 2-day head start. It's an absolute W. Take the W where you can get it. But then, huge mistake would be to not switch to Greece for the fighting. And I think Greece this is where it's at, man, if you're going to battle, when you're going to battle. So this gives you a daily limit of 100,000 troops that can be reloaded in airports if you're fighting while using Greece. Oh, dude, I literally passed right over it. Temple Protection is the one, all right? Grants the ability to quick conscript with city militia when the city's armies are located in a fortress or airport. There's a daily limit of 100,000. But this prevents you from having to, like, reload back constantly at other locations. You can keep fighting for a while longer. It's a big deal. If you're not using Greece when you're at war, I think you're doing something wrong. And on the topic of doing things wrong in war, mistake number 4, let's talk about some units for the next couple mistakes here, because you get a new era. With the new era comes some new units. We need to talk about transport aircraft, okay? They can take you very strategically through terrain. The 2 units we're talking about are the industrial era transport aircraft, which, by the way, lets you take up to 5 ground armies belonging to you and your allies, drop to a tile within a 40 tile radius, and that is as the crow flies. So you can go over terrain, you can transport your way over, unload, and the big advantage here is that you don't lose morale for going a great distance. Absolute W, okay? The other unit that you can use that is the new unit is in the modern era. It's the large transport aircraft. Now you can get 8 armies and 50 tile range. Absolute W, okay? Now, you'll capture your level 9 tiles a lot faster, and you can deploy your armies close to the front line in PvP using these transports. And as I mentioned, you can go around obstacles. Like, I don't know, man. If you're not using your transport aircraft very strategically, you are missing out on a huge amount of value, which brings us to the next aircraft that I wanted to talk about, which is copters, baby. Get to the chopper. It is a huge mistake not to use the suppressive capability of helicopters. Let me explain. Okay, as you can see in the text here, a helicopter delivers continuous suppressive fire to an area on the ground within 2 tile range. When an enemy army is present in the area, it deals 1 instance of attack damage, and that attack costs 3 AP. You can use your helicopters with your purple heroes, and if there's nobody contesting you and your air superiority, this gives you absolute leverage for your ground units, okay? So there's a couple reasons why this is powerful. And by the way, there is the helicopter and there is also the attack helicopter. So combined, you can have 6 different helicopters deployed at a time, which is a big deal. But when you enter into a new zone, okay, there's a ton of barbarian camps, and as you move towards things you want to capture, like a city-state, those barbarians are going to try to stop you, and they can destroy your siege camps as well that you're building, and even take your tiles. So the barbs in this season are more savage, or certainly more aggressive. And if you bring helicopters, now you'll have air units that are not going to be attacked by them, that can protect your ground units, including your siege camps. And when the barb gets within that 2 tile range, the helicopter starts to chip away at its troop count, which makes it softened up by the time it gets to you. All right. So helicopters are really valuable for battling against barbarians and keeping your troops safe, as the barbs are more aggressive in this season. But on the topic of mistakes, I just mentioned how powerful helicopters are and air units in general are with transports. There's another unit we need to talk about that it is a mistake not to use. It is the mobile SAM. If we scroll on over to the right, it is in the modern era. New unit, baby. And the mobile SAM is basically your incredible anti-air. Defend airspace within 5 tiles of you, attacking enemy air units within range, deals 200% damage to them every time. And there's a 5-second interval between each attack. Damage dealt scales with your army size. So I just told you, use helicopters, get air superiority, but like, also you need to use the anti-air because the air stuff is so powerful. I guess ultimately what I'm saying is that air advantage is really important. So when you're not deploying your air units, which you need to do carefully, like, look, you have to use helicopters during war, but you need to avoid getting wrecked by a SAM, all right? So this is a powerful unit defensively, and it makes your enemy think twice about sending troops far into your territory. I guess what I'm saying is that you need to be using these mobile SAMs very strategically in the new season, because you can protect your airport, your alliance buildings, your own air units, and when combined with your own air strength, these things are really hard to contest, all right? So the combination of your own anti-air plus air gives you suppressive fire both on the air and the ground, and it's incredibly powerful. And, you know, ultimately reducing your enemy's march size is going to get them absolutely cooked by the time they arrive, all right? Which brings us to the next mistake, which is that, okay, I just finished saying, like, you can use all these 4-star units in your helicopters, but also there's like a time when you need to use 5-star units, all right? So like if you have air superiority and you're not being attacked, like you can use these 4-star heroes in things like your helicopters and your big chilling. But the moment you actually get into meaningful skirmishing, you are not going to want to use those 4-star heroes anymore, okay? You can use them when you have air control, but it's a mistake to try to use them in like a big fight where things are really contested. Your 5-star armies from your main lineups are going to last longer, deal more damage as they move through enemy airspace. Your gold lineups are much, much better in dangerous situations, and using the purple heroes is really good to save your sort of main armies for defensive situations or where you're not being heavily contested. Now, I told you a lot of the tips I was about to give would be related to era, and it makes sense. Like, this is a Season 2 vid. We just entered into the modern era, and you need to be very careful of modern era units. They are very, very, very powerful. And so what you should avoid doing, this is the next mistake, is fighting into modern era units when you don't have them. So if you're still in the industrial era, you need to chill until you fight the modern era. And like, obviously you need to rush to modern era as best you can. But in my experience with PvP, it's really like a night and day difference in your punch after you get your modern units. So like, yes, rush to modern era units, and until you have them, dodge the people that do have them. Unit conversation out of the way, I actually need to double back and talk about civilizations again, because I kind of got baited into picking Egypt, and I don't think that's the best choice in Season 2. Now, Egypt will look really, really appealing, okay? Because it features like 25% from harvesting, which is really major. Let's see here. Also, you double each district's construction limit. For each district type, one additional district can be constructed. This is major. So like, trying to stack up a bunch of campuses and push your insight per hour is a big deal. But that's only really something you can capitalize on in the medieval era. And the catch is that you start in the classical era, not the medieval era. So although districts were like really, really busted in Season 1, which would lead you to think picking Egypt is the play right away, you do not want to do that, in my opinion, at the start of Season 2. I've got a really detailed video about which civilizations to pick in Season 2 and when. I'll have that card in the end screen, and you should absolutely go check that out. So I'll leave the conversation sort of here for now. But just be careful about getting baited into Egypt. I did it, and I did not feel as though it was as good as other things I could have been doing, all right? Now, this brings us to the final recommendation for Season 2. And that is one of the new features. It's very powerful, and it is having governors for each state. Let me explain. So in your alliance, you can see now that there are governors. There's a whole governor menu. You can see who the governors are for each of the different city-states. This is pretty hype. The way that this works is that these specific individuals become appointed as the governor of the city-state that your alliance owns, and then players become members of that city-state, and you do that to get a series of buffs that are contained within that city-state. And this massively influences your growth and your ability to wage war in the mid to late season. In my opinion, the tech cities and a tech governorship is especially important for gaining more insight early in the season. Plus, then you get an extra observatory building you can place in the mountains for additional insight. And when a war breaks out, you switch to a military governor to get war buffs. And just like your civilization, like, I think you need to be switching your governorship or which city-state you belong to match what you're doing in the season, obviously, right? And this is, you know, you've got a bunch of different options here. Match your needs at the time. It's a cool new function in Season 2. It's a mistake to not switch around, just like it's easy to get sort of attached to your civilization. You just switch when it's time, baby. All right? You enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, subscribe. You might have found this video without seeing my tips and tricks from Season 1, which, by the way, also apply to Season 2. It's just this is some extra stuff on top. So I'll have 2 cards for you in the end screen. One is the best civilizations for Season 2. The next is going to be, let's go with tips and tricks from Season 1, all right? If you haven't watched that video, There's some cool stuff in there. Like I jokingly call it speed hacking, all right? Big thank you again to the makers of Civilization Eras and Allies for sponsoring this video. You can use the link in the description to go download the game, and I hope that you'll do so because the global launch is coming soon, and this is looking pretty hype. But go check out the videos I mentioned, cards in the end screen, all right? Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.